on a Friday live here at Mandu in Green Hills. No, that's not Zach. That is Luke Worsham of A to Z Sportsnational.com joining me today to talk about Julio Jones and his first OTA practice with the Titans in a Titans uni yesterday. I was there. Luke, you were not. Because the damn NFL rules, we can only get one credential per outlet, but hopefully that changes by the time training camp comes around. But we saw Julio. Everybody saw Julio with those videos we posted yesterday all over social media. Looking forward to asking you guys a handful of questions today. What's your excitement level to see Julio Jones on the practice field? We'll go 1 through 10 on that. I think an interesting question, Luke, is what was better, his practice performance or his press conference answers? Because he had some really good one-liners that a lot of people saw yesterday and heard yesterday. You wrote an article on our website. We'll talk about that, the key ingredients that will make Julio Jones and the Titans successful on offense. And then I think we have a nice over-under. We have A to Z Sports Picks, our betting show presented by BetMGM later this afternoon, but we'll do a little over-under for Julio Jones at the end of the show. And Luke, I know this is your first time on the morning show. We end every week with Ain't That Good News. So you got to have your good news, right?
I've got some.
Okay, I'm glad you've got it because I did not tell you about this, but you've watched
I've watched the show.
You know what's up.
I know how this works.
You know how it works. That's fine. So you get it, but happy to have you on here as we talk Julio Jones. It's going to be a big show because that was a big June practice. It was a June practice, but it was huge. Yeah. So, Luke, glad to have you in. How are you doing this morning?
Doing good, and I have to say, a couple of weeks ago when we scheduled how we were going to be using our one credential for OTA, and I told you I would go last Thursday, in the back of my head, I remember thinking, I was like, but what if they sign Julio Jones between then and the one that happened yesterday? And of course, that's what happened. So,
and I got lucky.
Yeah, Austin got lucky. I did not get lucky.
Zach got really unlucky because he went Memorial Day weekend when nobody was there.
Yes. No Tannehill, none of the receivers, nothing. But hey, since I am filling in for Zach this morning, I'm going to do what Zach always does to start every show, and that is remind you that you need to share the show on whatever platform you are using to listen or watch us this morning. And by doing that, you're going to get more people into the show. It's going to be a lot more fun for everyone because this is good stuff that we have going on. And so you're going to want to share it with all your friends and all of your followers. Make sure that we, A to Z Sports, are appearing in your friends' news feeds, timelines, and all of that good stuff, whether you're listening on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, or Twitter. Please share the show.
Yes, let's get it going officially. And by the way, I'll save that. I'll come back with that, my by the way, here in a second. But first, let's get this thing going officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered by BetMGM. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Luke Worsham in for Zach Bingham. Make sure you follow us on all of the social medias, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, and now, Luke, TikTok. As of this morning, I made the A to Z TikTok officially.
Does this mean I'm a TikToker now?
You will not by your own choice, but yes, you are a TikToker now because we are all TikTokers, if that's the term. But A to Z Sports on TikTok, make sure you follow it there. Let's thank our sponsors before we officially get going. We're live here at Mandu in Green Hills, the Pulse of Fitness. 1 15-minute workout equals 5+ hours in the weight room at Mandu.com. Renters Warehouse. They are the professional landlords in the Nashville area. Renterswarehouse.com is where to go to find out how much your home can rent for. Wilson County Hyundai for your next ride. Head out to Lebanon, WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Calvin and Settle to upgrade your home with that new hardwood floor at CalvinandSettle.com. And the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. So, Luke, you weren't there yesterday, but you saw all the videos. You saw everything happening with Julio Jones. What was your reaction? How did you feel about it? Was there FOMO from you? Not just being on the press conferences via Zoom that we'll talk about, but Julio Jones was very impressive to watch yesterday.
Yeah, it was the most fun Titans practice probably in the last 3 years, and I didn't get to go to it. So there definitely was a little bit of FOMO going on there. You know, it reminded me of my first year with you guys when the Tampa Bay Buccaneers came to town.
Yeah.
And we had been watching Corey Davis, and I think Rashard Matthews was still there, but he wasn't practicing. That's what we were working with. Taylor, another guy we were watching. And then here comes Mike Evans, right? And we get to watch him throw and run the offense with Jameis Winston. And I remember we watched that and we're like, okay, that's what a receiver's supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Right? That's what this is supposed to look like. It was very much that with Julio Jones yesterday. Now, we as Titans reporters, we've gotten to watch A.J. Brown, so it's gotten a little better in terms of.
And Corey Davis was physically big
Yeah.
and strong and a specimen, but I mean,
Yeah, but
AJ's different than Corey. And from my firsthand viewing, Julio Jones is different than AJ Brown. Like AJ Brown's a freak, but Julio Jones is a different level of freak.
It's a cliche phrase that my friends and I like to use, built different.
Yeah.
And you use it a lot of times as a joke to kind of be funny, but Julio's built different, man.
Yeah.
Like, you posted the video of him doing the ladder drills where his head is straight ahead and perfectly still, and his feet move like Khalif Raymond's feet.
Right.
Even though Khalif Raymond is 5'7" and Julio Jones is 6'3", this guy's just different. And he made the point also that, he's been sharing knowledge with the younger receivers. And I think from that, you get this idea that Julio Jones has been so successful, over nearly 13,000 career receiving yards, 60 touchdowns, that this is a guy who has things to share to those younger guys and knows the intricate details and the little things. And I can see that even on little, 20-second practice videos.
Yeah, and again, like, it was wildly impressive just to watch. And, his feet move like machine gun quickness and power.
Yeah.
The head thing, I was talking to Teron, and Teron's a former wide receiver in college. I was a wide receiver in high school, but that doesn't mean anything. But just watching and talking to Teron about, like, every, like, nuanced thing that Julio does and how he approaches a June practice. Because let's be real. Julio Jones didn't need to be there yesterday.
Oh, no.
It was voluntary. It's an OTA. It was June 10th. Julio did not need to be there until next week when the mandatory minicamp starts. But he shows up and he just owns the day. Everybody had to go get their Julio stuff.
Yeah.
And he lived up to it. He performed. Like, I know we're watching the guy do ladder drills and a box square route, catch a football drill. And it's nothing, important. But Julio Jones looks different and Christopher says, looks very healthy. Steph brings up the explosion of his first step was stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, Steph's right. The first step that somebody saw that on Twitter from my video is that I don't know how a DB press covers that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you're screwed. Like, if he gets off the line with a first step like that, and here's the crazy thing about that first step. The most important thing about that first step. He was only going 5 yards.
Yeah.
And most people do not take a first step explosive like that when they're only going 5 yards before they're cut.
Yeah.
That's a go route first step. But that shows you that Julio, it doesn't matter what route he's running, that first step is going to be as explosive as he can be, and it's going to really screw with DBs for a long time.
And that's the thing that separates the really, really good players at any position, not just receiver, from just sort of the Pro Bowler types. It's every single little detail, as you were hinting at, is perfect. There's nothing you look at in their game where you can critique really anything, and that's what separates someone like Julio Jones from maybe someone like Chris Godwin on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a really good player who puts up a lot of good receiving yards, but he's not the best of the best. And those best of the best guys have the details down to a science, and it's easy to see. It's not like you have to go searching on the film for it.
Right, yeah, and I want to read a comment. There's back and forth going about Julio's quick feet compared to Mason Kinsey's. Will's right. Mason Kinsey does that drill very well.
Yeah.
Like, Mason Kinsey is very quick-footed. That's his style. But Mason Kinsey's like 5'10", 190.
Yeah.
Right? Julio Jones is 6'3", 220-something, and having the same type of foot speed that Mason Kinsey has, who is a much smaller guy. Titans for Life says, "Hey, Luke, great to see you. Luke Worsham in for Zach today, here live from Mandu in Green Hills." So let's go ahead and do this. Let's ask this question because I am very curious about what you guys felt about it to get you guys more involved on this Friday. What was your level of excitement seeing Julio Jones in a Titans jersey at practice yesterday? What was that level of excitement, 1 through 10? But first, let me tell you more about where we're at. Mandu, the pulse of fitness, mandu.com. Your first workout is free. Check them out, guys, because Mandu is literally for anybody, whether you're young, whether you're a little older, whether you're in shape, you're out of shape, you've got pre-existing injuries, or you're healthy. Mandu can help you achieve your fitness goals. A 15-minute workout is all it takes. You might be like, yeah, right, 15 minutes, whatever. But when you do that first free workout and you're sore for the next 2 to 3 days, you'll be like, man, Austin was right. And yes, it works you hard. You build muscle, you build strength, and you target that hard to burn body fat in only 15 minutes, that saves you hours in the gym every week. Your first workout is absolutely free at mandu.com.
And I want to tell you also that you need to go download the BetMGM app because they've got a great deal going on today. For new users who sign up today, if you enter the promo code A to Z 100, you can put $1 on any NBA money line wager tonight. And if any NBA team hits a three-pointer tonight, you're going to get $100. Hard to beat that deal.
No, that's a great deal right there. Jalen says, Austin, it looked like you've been using Mandu. That is correct. I've been using Mandu for over 2 years now, and it is legit. So what is your excitement level seeing Julio Jones in a Titans uniform at practice yesterday? I will go ahead and read some comments as I try to scroll to the top of the comments. Larry just says 100 plus.
Yeah, I've seen.
Corey says anything other than a 10 is the wrong answer. Jemai says 10. Scott says 10. Keelan says 10. Breath of fresh air. Corey says 10. Alex says 10, mostly because he showed up. David says 4 because it's OTAs. Caleb says 10 out of 10. What injury? Dude is looking lethal, which I thought was interesting. We'll talk more about Julio's press conference here in a little bit. But he said one of his one-liners that was great is, whoever's questioning my health, stay tuned. Yeah. He looked fully healthy, fully ready to go yesterday.
He certainly did. I'm going to agree with one of the comments that said, I didn't see the name, but it said a 9 because you have to leave yourself room to get somewhere else. And he said seeing him in a game jersey will be the 10.
I get that. That's a good. That is a really good answer. Damon 10, Marquis 10, Michael 10, 11 from G-Man 7. Here's Smash 7. I want to see him on the field in a regular season game. So somebody's going off of that one there too.
Tempered a little bit.
Ramon says very excited at a 10. James at a 10, watching him do drills. Frank says 10. I already ordered a Julio Oilers jersey.
That's interesting.
I don't know if Frank is an old school Houston fan or not, but the Oilers jerseys are cool and all, but come on, let's stick with the Titans unis, I guess. It doesn't make any sense to go Julio, who has just gotten traded here from the Falcons, to go to a jersey that was worn over 25 years ago.
Where do you even get that? Do they sell those at NFL shops?
I don't know, but I ordered an old Dominique Wilkins Hawks jersey from China when I was in college. So I don't know if that's where they go there too. But Nick's a 10. I Killed Goliath is a 10. Good to see he showed up to voluntary workouts when Vic Beasley couldn't show up to mandatory.
My buddy Will Lomas tweeted yesterday that Julio is already the best Falcons free agent or player the Titans have ever brought in. He said because Vic Beasley would have still been asleep yesterday and Julio was already at practice.
Yeah, and he's already done so much more than Isaiah Wilson, more than Vic Beasley, more than Clowney. I mean, the guy is already making a great impact on the team. And what do you make of it, of him saying that he's already been helping the younger guys, and then Josh Reynolds, I believe it was, kind of confirming that, saying he's already pointing some things out. What do you make out of that?
I think it comes down to his level of professionalism, which is something that is immediately clear watching the videos, but also listening to him talk, is that this is a guy that's not interested in a circus. He's not interested in putting on some sort of fake show. He's going to put his head down. He's going to go to work, and he's going to get his job done. Julio Jones treats football like a blue-collar job. It's the most cliche thing, but he's a lunch pail guy. Right. And we treat in our society, we teach kids and people in college to be professional. Show up on time and do your job and earn your dues and work hard. But then we look at athletes and we make excuses. We're like, oh, but you see, they're so talented, so they don't really have to do all of that. And maybe that's true to an extent. But Julio Jones is that rare exception where he treats the NFL like he's got a desk job at some, financial
whatever it might
place.
Be. Yeah, for sure. Julio just wants to win, Chris says. So MB has a good question that we'll branch off of in a second. Luke, 1 through 10, what was your excitement level watching all the videos yesterday? And then you got to be on the Zoom with Julio.
Yeah.
Not quite in person type interview, but but what's your excitement level covering the Titans with Julio Jones here?
I'm going to go with a 9, and the reason I'm not going with a 10 is I got to leave myself room to get a little bit more invested and excited once we actually see him in games. But look, I have a reputation in the Titans beat and among people who read my stuff and listen to me talk of being a little negative, perhaps being a little bit critical. And yesterday, And I've made this comment. I went on a radio show in Louisiana and said this. I did a podcast in Philadelphia and said this, right? Every time I've talked about Julio Jones, I am not the pom-poms guy.
No.
I'm not a cheerleader, but I've got the pom-poms out this week for Julio Jones. Like, this is such a great deal, and it's so exciting. Joe Rexrode from The Athletic tweeted at me yesterday. He was like, calm down, young curmudgeon.
And Joe was the dude yesterday with his goatee and all out there at Titans practice, and Joe was like, "Oh, I can't wait to post my amazing Julio video with all the sarcasm in the world."
Which then got aggregated by
I know because he like went all caps, like, look at this amazing Julio video that was like insanely average because Joe Rexrode doesn't, I love Joe's a buddy, but like Joe doesn't know how to get good at camera angles, nor does he care about good camera angles. But, Joe was the old curmudgeon where you might have been the young guy who was getting too hyped out about this. So that just gives you the entire spectrum of what this is.
Everything's going in reverse right
yeah,
now.
Yeah. But, for me, like, and I tweeted this out. Like, I tweeted a picture. I said, just here to say, watching Julio Jones practice is pretty badass. The guy is different because the guy is different. And I can't tell you everything of what I saw, but, in detail. But, there are moments when special teams drills are happening on the other field where Tannehill and Julio have some time to do some things one-on-one to work on some nuances of the quarterback-wide receiver relationship, and I'll leave it at that. And being able to witness that was like, now this is kind of cool because Julio is different from every other wide receiver who has walked onto that practice field wearing a Titans jersey. Mike Evans counts because he walked on the practice field wearing a Bucs jersey. But Julio Jones is that type of dude.
Yeah.
That type of physicality, that type of freak, and that type of work ethic and mentality where everything is done with a purpose. And, watching the explosiveness that he has and that he's out there going and putting on a show in a June OTA makes me very excited about this upcoming season. I talked to a bunch of people yesterday after practice, just being like, what was that like? I'm like, man, this year's just going to be fun. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just going to be a fun year because A.J. Brown wasn't even there. Like, he wasn't even out there. Now, next week for mini camps, he should be out there. To what extent, we don't know because we don't know how deep the knee surgeries actually were and the rehab that follows all that. But my excitement level is I'm going to go with an 8 because I do know it was a June 10th OTA. But Julio Jones is fun to watch. And, as long as he can stay healthy, this Titans team will be very exciting for the rest of this season.
It's okay to be excited about a practice hero when that practice hero is Julio Jones.
Well,
when that practice hero is Tajay Sharp, maybe you can take a step back and say, let's wait for the season.
Well, and like Titans fans and Titans media, to some extent, have been excited about wide receivers in practice before. And that's usually an annual thing.
It's because we've been talking, and people around this team have been talking for the last 20 years about needing a wide receiver. Because it's been Derek Mason, who didn't even spend his whole career here.
Yeah.
And nothing else.
And wide receivers drafted in the late rounds or undrafted free agents can look good doing drills in shorts and a helmet.
Yeah.
And like Mason Kinsey looks good doing drills like that. There was another guy, I don't have my roster with me, Marcus Johnson, a fifth-year guy at Texas. No idea who the heck this guy is. That guy looked good yesterday. He caught a couple touchdowns in 7-on-7 red zone drills. Racy McMath made a really nice play in 7-on-7 red zone drill, go up over a defender to catch a touchdown. And I look over at Mike Keith, and he's like, Racy can play a little bit. So, don't get too excited because Mike Keith thinks Racy can play a little bit.
Well, the Titans have gone from 20 years worth of failed high wide receiver draft picks all the way from Kevin Dyson in the early days, Tyrone Calico, Corey Davis, Justin Hunter. These guys who made varying impacts, stayed for varying amount of times, but none of them were anything special at the wide receiver position. And now you go from all of that to having a likely future Hall of Famer and A.J. Brown, who made the Pro Bowl in year 2. It's an embarrassment of riches after years of starvation at that spot. Yeah,
so MB asked this question, and I wanted to come back to this before we move on to the Julio press conference stuff too. MB says, do you guys think from an opponent's standpoint, Julio will be treated as wide receiver 1 and A.J. will be wide receiver 2 or vice versa?
That's a good question.
It is a good question, and I don't really know how to answer it because I don't really know. I was listening to Greg Cosell on 3HL yesterday on the Zone, and he was kind of being the devil's advocate of like, we don't know what this offense is going to look like.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know with Todd Downing, who in 2017 with the Raiders ran a bunch of 3 wide receiver sets, where the Titans over the last couple of years with Arthur Smith, more 2 tight end guys sets. But like I don't know what the usage is going to be.
Yeah.
But, my vantage point, if I'm a defense, I'm looking at both those guys and Derrick Henry and saying, we can't fall asleep on anything, and we have to be 100% laser focused on every snap on every level.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people are going to look at their pass rush against the Titans offense and think you have to get after Tannehill to throw him off his timing so AJ and Julio don't crush you down the field.
I think a better way to maybe ask this question is let's take the example of the LA Rams, who are on the Titans schedule in the 2021 season. Who's Jalen Ramsey going to travel with? That's the question we're looking at here.
And I would say probably Julio.
That would make the most sense to me because that's who I would be the most scared of.
Well,
I love
Julio,
A.J. Brown, but we're talking about someone on a different level.
Julio's the harder man-to-man cover.
Yes.
And A.J. Brown, as great as A.J. Brown has been in his first 2 years, is not just unbelievable at route crispness,
No,
right?
he's not.
He's good at his fluid routes, which are the in-cutting routes, which is why he takes a slant, 5-yard catch, 70-yard touchdown. But A.J. Brown's not the cleanest route runner yet. He's a big guy. It's going to take him time to learn those, how to drop his hips, how to get in and out with explosiveness and fluidity at the same time. But Julio Jones has been doing this for a long time, and he is the tougher man-to-man cover, in my opinion, right now.
Yeah, and it's important to be clear, too. A.J. Brown's going to sound like a scrub, and a lot of people will, when you compare them to Julio Jones. We're sitting here nitpicking A.J. Brown and saying 1 year or 2 he's not that great at this and that great at this. It's because we're comparing him to Julio Jones. A.J. Brown is still a terrific player and a rising star in the league.
I think I'm not going to remember the stat completely off the top of my head, but there are only 3 guys in their first 18 games who have had like 2,000 yards receiving. No, what was it? It was 1,500 yards receiving, like 12 touchdowns, and averaging 15 yards a catch. Like only 3 guys who've been able to do that in their first 18 or 20 games of their career. It was A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, and Randy Moss.
It's a pretty good trio.
It's insane, right? And Julio Jones isn't even on that list. So
yeah.
A.J. Brown has had a better start to his career than Julio Jones had. But again, at this point, Julio Jones is way more polished as a wideout than AJ. So I don't even know.
To be fair, Julio started his career in the Mike Mularkey exotic smash mouth offense in Atlanta.
I did not think about that, but you are correct. You are correct. That is pretty wild. Liz, intern Liz George, Julio could be a great influence on AJ and his routes. Absolutely.
That's very true.
And Julio's already talking about hanging out at dinner with A.J. Brown. That's how he picked his jersey number 2. And so, there's already a great relationship there. And so, A.J. has a great, kid-like personality sometimes, super authentic. And I can almost, wish I could just watch A.J.'s facial expressions while he's sitting at dinner with Julio Jones. The guy's just going to be, N64, unwrapping it in Christmas of '98 all over again. So, pretty incredible there. And Malachi Priest says Roddy White was opposite of Julio when Julio came in the league. That's a good point.
It was good Roddy White at that point.
Yeah, really good Roddy White. Not injured, turf toe, slower Roddy White. All right, A to Z Sports here live. Luke Worsham is in for Zach Bingham this morning. Zach will be back on Monday. He's out in Texas trying to play a cowboy like he does every June in Texas. So this was interesting because Julio Jones practiced. Those videos all went viral from what we posted, from what other Titans media posted. But I also thought Julio Jones' press conference was just as good.
Yep.
So let's ask this question. What was better, Julio Jones' practice performance or Julio Jones's press conference answers? But first, let me tell you guys about Calvin and Subtle and calvinandsubtle.com. Look, if you want to upgrade your home, upgrade your home's value and overall price and equity, you upgrade your flooring. You get rid of that carpet. I don't care if you have carpet in the bedrooms or not. Lay down the hardwood floors and get the new hardwood flooring from calvinandsubtle.com. They cover the entire mid-state. They do it the right way with quick efficient, and good service. They get in and out of your home without dragging on the job process, and because everybody understands having no hardwood floors in your house or redoing your floors in your house and it taking a month is a pain in the you-know-where. It's Calvin and Settle. They get in and out and make sure you get on with your life with great service and great product at calvinandsettle.com.
And I'm going to remind you again that if you have not yet signed up for the BetMGM app and you do it today using the promo code A to Z100, you can make a $1 money line bet on any NBA game. And if any NBA team hits a three-pointer tonight, that $1 is going to become $100. You're not going to find a better deal than that anywhere.
Nope. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. You must be 21 years old or must be present in Tennessee. And for gambling problem support, call the Tennessee Red Line at 800-889-9789. What was better yesterday, Luke? Julio Jones' practice performance or Julio's press conference answers? So I'm going to read comments, but first I'm just going to read the notes that we took down of one-liners from Julio Jones yesterday. The first one, quote, "I'm not a stat guy, I'm a win guy."
Mm-hmm.
AJ's the number one wideout. He's a dog. Defenses will have to pick their poison. That was answering between what's going to happen with defenses covering AJ, and Derrick Henry. And then my favorite, if you question my health, stay tuned.
Yeah.
like all four of those lines. And he had like other really good answers about helping younger teammates. He had nice things to say about the city of Atlanta. Some guy from Atlanta came on and tried to ask him, like, why'd you leave, man? Which was kind of a weird awkwardness that he just didn't answer. But what was better between his practice performance, where we saw all the explosive videos, everything from that, or those one-liners that he dropped in that press conference?
Man, it's tough for me because I'm typically a proof is in the pudding guy.
Yeah.
And you look at the practice and the actual output of the player, and that's what you go off when evaluating the player. But the journalist deep inside me is going to pick the press conference because it was just so eye-opening. And I thought, too, as he was explaining his health, before he gave the one-liner about if you question my health, stay tuned, he mentioned that, last year when he was dealing with that hamstring injury, the reason it lingered the way that it did is he said he didn't allow it to heal the way that he should have, sort of rushed it back. And that's sort of eye-opening, I think, because I feel like Julio is being unfairly labeled as injury-prone. He averages, if you look at his career and take last season away, which is the only long-term issue he's had, he averages like 3/4 of a missed game a year or something like that. It's not like this guy is constantly sitting out of games. The injury-prone narrative, quite frankly, is a lazy take based on the fact that he had one long-term injury in 2020 at age 32 that, based on what you saw at St. Thomas Sports Park yesterday, is not a problem anymore.
Right. And so I don't know why I just pulled up Julio Jones stats and I'm getting defensive stats, Luke. Like, you're looking at this.
Well, everyone always says he can play safety.
I'm trying to find the game log from Julio Jones
at wide receiver,
and I can't find it. But this isn't even correct. I don't even know.
Try Pro Football Reference.
I don't even know what ESPN.com is showing me at this point. But I was trying to make a point here to go along with what you were saying about this. But okay, so games. He played 9 games last year. He played in 5 games his third year. He did have the Jones fracture in his foot. He's had a lingering foot issue over some of his career. So I guess but he's been playing through it.
But that was what, 8 years ago?
Yeah. And so he's been really good. Like, you're right. He missed 1 game 2 years ago, 2 games 5 years ago, 1 game 7 years ago, and he missed 11 games 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. Like, that's like Julio Jones is playing a lot of games in this. So let's answer the question with you guys. What was more impressive, Julio Jones's practice performance or his press conference answers? Let's see. Chris says, I almost enjoyed the presser as much as his practice.
Yeah.
Let's see. More comments to read through. Rob says press conference. Steven says Julio's press conference. Donald says the press conference, both. It smashes the practice because that's all I was able to see with health concerns. He looked crisp out there. Fair answer. So I thought it was interesting because Larry says press conference for sure. That's straight from his mind and heart, not just watching his skills.
Yeah.
And my first thought was selfishly from like what we do, and I'm sure you had the same view, is hell yeah. Julio Jones is going to be a quote.
Yeah.
Julio Jones is going to be something we can actually work with.
And I was worried because he doesn't have a reputation of being a talking guy,
No.
which is fine. But at the same time, like, give me something, right? You don't have to be Taylor Lewan gas bagging in a media scrum. Give me something, right? And that's what Julio Jones did. And again, it doesn't have to be pat yourself on the back kind of stuff. Just those simple one-liners, like you've already read several of them. Fantastic.
Yeah, I'm not a stat guy. I'm a win guy.
Love that.
Defenses will have to pick their poison. Like most guys are so much more guarded with how they choose their words. And it seemed like Julio Jones was just like, screw it. I'm just going to say whatever I feel like that's on my mind. You know, if you question my health, stay tuned. And I think several people have said that line gave them chills. And as soon as he said that, I got out the Twitter, got my Twitter fingers going and tweet that out. I was like, that one's going to take off.
It was a money quote.
People are going to eat that up.
Well, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You know, you just said that it seemed as though he just sort of said, screw it, I'm going to say whatever I'm going to say. When you're that talented, you can.
Yeah.
You know, you can get away with a lot more. You know, if we had Mason Kinsey standing at his locker talking about, you know, I'm going to prove the doubters wrong, you might look at that and
say, okay, guy. Like, he's the same guy. He's Trey McBride just 5 years later. Like, It's the same thing, right? So it's pretty interesting. So we're going to get back to Julio Jones on the field. Luke, you wrote an article at A2ZSportsNational.com yesterday. The key ingredient that will make Julio Jones and the Titans successful on offense.
Yeah.
I am very intrigued by this. But first, let me tell you guys about the Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Make sure you know where to go when you do get injured. If you're at Mandu, then you can help prevent injury, but injury is unpreventable to a lot of people. Even Julio Jones gets hurt every once in a while. But boneandjointtn.org, that's where to go, who to trust with whatever injury that happens. Over a dozen doctors in the facility in Franklin, Tennessee, with a great state-of-the-art rehab facility as well. boneandjointtn.org.
Also, if you have not yet signed up for the BetMGM app, and you do that today using the promo code A2Z100, you're going to be able to make a $1 money line bet on any NBA game tonight. And if any NBA team makes a three-pointer, which I would think the odds of that happening are
they're giving you a free $100.
You're going to turn that $1 into $100.
Yeah. So if you have been concerned at all about getting into the sports betting world, it's so much fun. I was on an 0-8 streak until last night. I finally won a bet. My God, last week I won 9 in a row, then I lost 8 in a row. That's how it works out. But it just gets crazy. So BetMGM, download the app. That's for sure there. So, Luke, what is the key ingredient that will make Julio and the Titans offense successful this year?
Humility, right? That's the key ingredient, because a lot of times we see these good on paper, quote unquote, teams that just don't gel. And I think one of the reasons that happens so often is egos get in the way. Julio Jones, to start, has a track record of being the ego-free guy. He's the anti-diva. He said it yesterday. I'm not a stats guy. I'm a win guy. And then you take a look at the other players on the Titans offense. Derrick Henry gets uncomfortable talking about himself, visibly uncomfortable when he has to talk about himself. A.J. Brown doesn't care about any of that stuff, right? He's got a little bit of swagger, and he'll talk to you, but at the same time, he's a team guy. You can see that in the way that he approaches the game. Ryan Tannehill is the same way. Anthony Ferkser is the same way. Josh Reynolds is the same way. Yeah, Todd Downing, the offensive coordinator, even said, my job's not to put the Todd Downing stamp on this offense.
Right.
It's to create the right recipe for the ingredients we have. And when you can put egos aside like that, you're going to be able to more easily gel together and not have people butting heads, which happens way too often when you have an offense like the Titans do with a lot of star players.
Yeah, because it's the cliche that, every coach says and every analyst also kind of repeats is there's only one football to go around.
Well, Mike Vrabel said that yesterday.
Yes, yeah, literally yesterday. And you wrote that in your article about it. And I think humility is interesting because I don't think any football roster is breaking down how humble are these guys and how does that impact their success or not. But I think you have a good point there.
And I asked Josh Reynolds yesterday, based on the fact that they're they have humility. How are they going to be able to gel on offense? I said, is it going to be a challenge to get everybody on the same page? And he answered, he said, actually, I don't think it's going to be that hard because we're all on the same page. We all have the same goal, which is to win. And I said, it sounds like, based on that there's no ego problem within this team. And he goes, oh, no, not at all. We want to win football games. And that was powerful to me, the fact that he shut that down immediately. He said, no, we're not going to have trouble at all. It's going to be pretty easy to gel together.
Yeah, Julio, another thing he said was, I don't care if I have, 15 targets or 0, or if I'm blocking or if I catch 2 passes. It's all about winning, right? And so, Derrick Henry likes getting the ball more, and we've seen moments where he wants the ball more, but we've also seen him try to get Dion Lewis a touchdown because he's already got 4 in that.
The only person in the world that wants Dion Lewis on the field is Derrick Henry.
Right.
Well, and you also have to remember this too when you talk about the I want 15 targets, I don't want 15 targets. There was this lazy take that immediately happened when the Titans traded for Julio, which is, well, how's he going to feel about having to share with A.J. Brown? And that's such nonsense. Like, he played with Roddy White. He played with Calvin Ridley. He's been on teams where he wasn't the only guy, and that's never been who Julio is. He's the anti-diva. So why all of a sudden now at age 32 or 33, is it 32 or 33?
32.
Why all of a sudden now would he turn into a diva demanding that he get some certain number of targets?
Well, I know Julio missed a lot of time. He missed 7 games last year, but Calvin Ridley had 143 targets last year.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And then this guy named Russell Gage had 110, but that's because Julio was out. So, I don't worry about that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But I do think humility is important. We have a question here about Todd Downing from, I think, Brooke, that I wanted to get to. Play calling. I am nervous to see if the Titans are going to play this right. What are your thoughts on Todd Downing? There's been some talk. We talked some yesterday when Jack was filling in for Zach about Shane Bowen versus Todd Downing on who's facing more pressure. But what do you think about Brooks' concern about the play calling being to the same type of level that it has been over the last couple of years with Arthur Smith?
I'm actually going to be writing about that early next week, so stay tuned to A2ZSportsNashville.com. But to simply put, what I'm going to expand upon in the column is Todd Downing's job this year is going to be to get out of the way. It's going to be to do exactly what he said, not put the Todd Downing stamp, not try to recreate Arthur Smith. When you've got this many talented players on an offense, your job is not to be weird. Your job is not to try to turn yourself into Sean McVay or Kyle Shanahan. Get out of the way. Let the players do what they do well. It should not be that hard for Todd Downing to have success. If Todd Downing fails with this group, then Todd Downing needs to never call another play in the NFL again, because his job is going to be give the ball to Derrick Henry and let Ryan Tannehill throw it around the yard to these 2 superhuman wide receivers, and then the third, Josh Reynolds, who's a pretty good player. But get out of the way. That's Todd Downing's job this year.
So I want to touch a little bit before we move on about other things that I watched at practice yesterday, because, with the lack of access that I think most people can have compared to the previous years. From watching Todd Downing, Todd Downing is a confident guy. He's loose without getting into specifics. He looks like he's just enjoying being at football practice, which I think it's important. It's not everything. You can still enjoy doing your job and still suck at your job. Just because you're having fun at your job doesn't mean you're good at it. But he feels comfortable out there in his new role as a play caller, which I think is important. Do you?
Yeah, I think it is. And he's done this before. He didn't do it successfully necessarily.
It was 1 year under Jack Del Rio when everybody got fired because they were enamored with John Gruden.
But even having that experience, maybe it's bad experience, makes that transition a little easier for him. There's not going to be a period that we had to go through watching Arthur Smith and Matt LaFleur at the beginning of his time as offensive coordinator, where he has to figure out what in the world he's doing. There's not going to be these conversations about, each week I'm figuring it out more and more. He should just know what this job is. And it might not necessarily click right away, but he's not going to have to figure out how best to communicate with the quarterback and those sorts of things. He's done it for a year.
And he's been here for a couple of years, right? Like
Yeah.
this is his third season in the Titans offense.
Exactly.
Because he was the tight end coach for both years.
He was Arthur Smith's replacement.
Yeah, exactly. So Christine says, I'm worried that he'll get too cute and get away from the run game. Henry feasts when he gets more touches. Christine, you're right. Henry's good because he doesn't tire at all. Mm-hmm. But Derrick Henry, the thing that's changed with Derrick Henry from the first 2.5 years of his career to the second 2.5 years of his career is that he's been good carries 1 through 5 in the second half.
Yeah.
In the first 2.5 years, he wasn't getting many carries because he wasn't doing anything with his early carries in the game. It was taking him too long to get going. Now he's getting 25 carries in a game because the first 5 to 6 carries, he's putting up 30 yards.
Yeah.
And now you're saying, okay, we can keep going to this. Where a couple of years ago, he was getting tackled in the backfield and all that. But so he's been a lot better. But I do think naturally, at some point, the Titans will have to become more balanced, and they can't give Derrick Henry almost 400 touches.
Yeah, and there's a line between Derrick Henry getting 25, 30 touches a game and being cute. There's somewhere in between that. Because let me ask you this. Is calling a slant pattern where you got A.J. Brown over here and Julio Jones over here, that's not cute, right?
No.
That's your offense.
Right, that's your offense. It's more about the things that like Strike joked about the wild bat.
Yeah, that sort of nonsense has no place
ridiculous. Here. Yeah, don't even worry about the Cam Batson taking direct snaps. That is a waste of an offensive snap.
But that's what I'm saying about get out of the way. Put away the weird trickery.
Yes.
Terry Robisky once a game would do something weird when he was here.
I've never said this before. To Terry Bisky's defense, he did not have people like they have now.
That's true.
There was a little bit more need to get cute and to do things that were deceptive because they did not have 3 transformers on the outside behind a quarterback like Ryan Tannehill. You had a limited quarterback like Marcus Mariota and smaller, less explosive weapons outside.
And that is exactly the point I'm making, which is they're not in that point anymore.
Yeah.
So you don't need the weird stuff anymore. Just run the ball or throw the ball.
Strike says they had Eric Weems on the field. My God, Eric Weems.
Eric Weems, wide
running
receiver
routes
behind Andre Johnson and Rashard Matthews.
Yes. So, look, they've come a long way. And John Robinson, you got to give him credit for that.
By the way, I wish I'd had the prop yesterday for Terry Robisky's name coming up in Julio Jones' press conference. I don't know if you
I did catch that.
But Julio brought his name up.
I rolled my eyes real hard.
Former Falcons to find their way in Tennessee.
Yeah, for sure. All right, A to Z Sports. Let's ask this question because I find this pretty fascinating too. All right, targets for Julio Jones. Will Julio have over or under 100 targets this season?
Mm-hmm.
Over or under 100 targets this season. But first, let me tell you guys about Wilson County Hyundai. If you need your new ride, head out to Lebanon to Wilson County Hyundai and check out their inventory online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Our guy Payne Bone and his crew out in Lebanon do a fantastic job. They will find the right car for you. It's not about their commission. It's not about the sale they are going to make. It's about finding the right vehicle for you, for your family, whatever situation you're in, whatever financial situation you're in, they will work with you at wilsoncountyhyundai.com.
Also, if you have not yet downloaded the BetMGM app, I've said it a few times already, but you're going to have an opportunity today. If you use the promo code A to Z100, you can turn $1 into $100 by making a $1 money line bet on the NBA tonight. And if any NBA team hits a 3 tonight, that $1 will become $100.
Boom, easy as that. So will Julio Jones, have over or under 100 targets this season? So for reference, last year, A.J. Brown had 106 targets in 14 games.
Mm-hmm.
Corey Davis, also 14 games, had 92. So that 100 number is pretty even there between the wide receiver 1 and the wide receiver 2, with both guys missing 2 games apiece. So will Julio have over or under 100 targets with the Titans this season? I'm just going to roll through the target number for Julio Jones in his career.
Wait till you get to, I think it's 20.
No, just 2 years ago.
2013, 2015.
Yes. All right, so here are the targets for Julio Jones going from most recent back in his career. Last year, he only played 9 games, 68 targets. A lot of targets in 9 games. The year before that, in 2019, 157. 2018, 170, 148, 129. Luke's year, 2015, 203 targets, 163. The year that he only played 5 games, he averaged almost 12 targets a game when he played 5 games. 59 targets in 5 games. 128 in his rookie year, 95 targets.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
Yeah.
So based off of Julio, because I saw a run in the comments section right when we asked this of everybody saying under. Like, I'm just going to go under.
There's a few unders.
There's a lot of there's a ton of unders that were coming out of the gates.
Yeah.
All in a row here in the feed. Now you've got some overs coming in now, but over or under 100 targets for Julio this season, Luke? What's your answer?
I don't know if you can pull it up. I love Ryan Fields' comment. He says, over. Julio isn't Corey Disappear Davis.
And I'm trying to find it. There's a lot of comments coming in, but yeah, I mean, he's not wrong.
And I'm going to agree with him. I'm going to take the over because if Todd Downing has any sense about him, it will hit the over. Both of them should have over 100 targets in the passing game. If A.J. Brown had 100 targets last year, and now and Corey Davis had 92, and like you said, those were each in 14 games.
Yep.
Add a game, right? We go to 17 games now. I don't see how they don't get 100 targets unless Todd Downing just has his head up his rear end all season.
All right, I'm going to try to do something on the fly. I probably should have thought of this ahead of time, knowing that we were going to ask this. Let's see if we can find a season in which 2 Titans pass catchers had over 100 targets.
My guess would be 2014.
Just because they were losing a lot of games and throwing the ball a lot.
I think Kendall Wright and Delaney Walker might have gotten close.
So Corey Davis in 2018 had 112, but Deion Lewis was next highest with 67.
And I don't think they actually hit those marks in 2014. Now that I think about it, so that might not have ever happened.
So what year is this? 2017. Delaney had 111. Rashard Matthews 87.
Close.
Eric Decker 83. Eric Decker. No statistics available for 2016. Why can't you pull up 2016? ESPN.com is having issues today. There we go. All right. So there it is. 2016. Rashard Matthews 108. Delaney Walker 102.
Yeah. And I think they can recreate that this year, considering that we're talking about 2 players who are more talented than Rashard Matthews and Delaney Walker, although Delaney Walker was an exceptional player.
Those were great years for both. I mean, I believe Delaney was a Pro Bowler that year, and that was the best year of Rashard Matthews' career, having 945 yards and 9 touchdowns. And I think that was his first year in Nashville.
I'm going to lose my mind if we find out that they traded for Julio Jones to block.
Yeah.
We heard for years, Corey Davis, what a tremendous blocker this guy is. I don't care. Get a blocking tight end in the 6th round, right? Draft and acquire receivers to go catch the ball.
The crazy thing is, in all of these years where there's guys having over 100 targets, it's either Rashard Matthews or Corey Davis the one year, or A.J. Brown, and then Delaney Walker. Like, Delaney Walker had 133 targets in 2015.
Delaney Walker deserved that many.
Yeah, but it's crazy of how little they were able to spread the ball around. The last time, Luke, they had 2 wide receivers, not counting a tight end. 2 wide receivers with over 100 targets in a year was in 2013. 2013, when Kendall Wright, of all people, had 140.
And then Nate Washington.
Nate Washington had 104.
Yeah.
But Kendall Wright having 140.
Well, Kendall Wright we forget that he was good for like 2 years.
No, he really wasn't. So I'm just gonna read you the numbers that Kendall Wright had. So he had 94 catches on 104 targets, 1,079 yards, 11.5 yards per catch. So on 140 targets, Kendall Wright scored 2 touchdowns.
To be fair, Julio's kind of had that track record.
But good Lord, like Kendall Wright, man. I mean, that was the Fitzpatrick year.
All they did was run. It was every 3rd down. You saw it coming from a mile away. It was a crosser with Kendall Wright and Delaney Walker. Every third down.
And the right tie says, "Don't hate on Kendall Wright." Come on, I can hate on Kendall Wright because Zach and I actually had a good relationship with Kendall Wright in the locker room. We would talk about like at this time of the year, back in 2013, 2014, 2015 with Kendall Wright, we would always talk NBA Finals at OTAs in the locker room with Kendall Wright and what he was watching and all that stuff. So he was a fun guy, but it soured real quick. And then the last year he was in Nashville, he was never in the locker room.
Didn't he boycott the media?
He was never in the locker room for open media availability. And whenever Zach and I were walking in the parking lot to leave, he would pull in the parking lot with his car and walk past. He'd be like, "What's up, guys?" And I'm like, "Hey, Kendall." I'm like, "Where you been?"
Should have gotten fined for that.
And he ended up getting suspended for that.
Okay.
Later that year.
I remember that now.
Ended his career.
As Mike Herndon likes to say, Kendall Wright was Mr. Banana Peels. He'd be running, and then all of a sudden, it's like Mario Kart. There goes the banana peel.
Yeah. Jose says, "Austin, do you remember or do you think this game of the year for 4,000 passer, 2,000 rusher, and 2 1,000-yard receivers?"
Well, they nearly got there last year. So add a game and better talent? I think so.
If you add a game, they get there. I don't think they got there if you include the playoff game.
I don't know that Henry's going to run for 2,000 again this year. No one's ever done it twice.
No, nobody's ever done it twice, let alone back-to-back. And Luke, you're not a regular on the morning show. This is your first time on the morning show, but Derrick Henry is this year away from leading the NFL in rushing to being a Hall of Famer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I have no bones with that at all. The Titans have 2 future Hall of Famers on offense.
Yeah, the two, and the right Tice is correct about this. 2,000 is the hardest one to get, but it's the one they got last year. That's the crazy one. It's the hardest one to get, but it's the only one they had last year. Well, if AJ, we're talking about 2 1,000 wide receivers. They had one last year, but they cleared the 2,000-yard rusher. So that's insane, but he's correct. 2,000 yards is the hardest one to get.
Yeah. It's like in the cycle, the triple's the hardest to get. Home runs even easier.
Yes.
Sort of the same measure.
Yeah, so Tannehill was 181 yards short this past season, and he threw for 165 in the playoff game. So he didn't get there.
Bobby tells me that I have to realize Henry is the gem of the chat and that no one in the chat believes that he can't get to 2,000 yards again. I guess that's a rookie mistake on my part.
No, I think he can. I mean, he absolutely can. It's just, does the offense –
I don't know that he gets the volume.
Right, that's what I was going to say. Is like, does the offense – because Jay Crump right there. Is that Jonathan Crompton watching on Twitch right now? Former Vols QB switching over from
to Twitch.
To Twitch, yeah. He says pass-to-run ratio will be different this year, so 2,000 will be very hard to get. Yes, sir, coming in from Crump there on Twitch. Look, you can watch us wherever you want to watch us.
TikTok.
Again, I made a TikTok this morning for A to Z Sports, so there's one video up. It's a Julio Jones yesterday, just with some music behind it. So you can go check us out, A to Z Sports Nashville on TikTok, because that's where everybody is these days. All right, Luke, let's go ahead and wrap up today's show. And we do this every Friday with Ain't That Good News. So what is everybody's good news this week? But first, let me tell you guys about Renters Warehouse, the professional landlords in the area at renterswarehouse.com. Head there to find out how much your home can rent for, or if you want to create extra cash flows for you and your family by renting out your property, or maybe you have a new graduate, your son or daughter graduating high school or college, and you don't want them in your house anymore. They can go rent out a property at renterswarehouse.com, and they've got great inventory all across the mid-state at different price ranges, different levels of homes, all types of it. renterswarehouse.com.
And one last time, I'm going to remind you that if you have not yet gotten the BetMGM app, you can get it. And today, sign up using the promo code A to Z100. And if you make a $1 money line bet on the NBA, and any NBA team hits a 3 tonight, that $1 becomes $100.
Boom. Easy money right there if you have not done the BetMGM app yet. So what's your good news this week? Reading some comments. If you guys want to comment your good news, Zach Goodman says his good news is he's lake bound on Saturday. Yeah, for sure. Hey, G-Man says, good news, I have a gig tonight in Tupelo.
Congrats.
G-Man on bass, which tells you that he is a bass player. David says taking a special needs kid out fishing tomorrow should be a blast.
Very cool.
Very good there. Jay Crump says, good news. Wife and I are visiting Nashville around his birthday next month. All right. Well, Crompton, you got my number. Let's figure something out. as long as I'm in town, which I'm going to be out of town for early in the month, but just, we'll talk about that later. So, Luke, what is your good news as you debut on A to Z Sports Morning Show?
My good news started as bad news. I went for a walk downtown in my hometown of Columbia, Tennessee.
Columbia has a downtown?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Ran into a friend, and I took my earbuds out. And I left, and then when I left, I realized I didn't have the earbuds anymore. They never made it into my pocket. So I go back and find one of them sitting on the sidewalk, but the other one's nowhere to be found. So I had to go do a podcast, but then I came back later and recruited friends, and we looked for like 30, 40 minutes.
for this one
earbud, which has a value, I won't tell you the brand, but it has a value of $35. That one earbud.
The
Both
one.
of them are 70.
Okay.
So, I mean, we have flashlights. We're looking all around, and then right before we were going to give up, I army crawl on the pavement and shine the flashlight underneath a car, and it is sitting right in the middle between the two front tires. And I found my earbuds, and I did the Tighten Up podcast using them this week.
There you go.
They still work.
So your good news is
finding them.
You found them. They were saved.
Having to pay $70 for a new pair of earbuds.
That's fantastic. G-Man says a bird probably picked it up, but it didn't. Louis says, my good news is I'm going to Nashville next February for the Super Bowl. Getting on track after suffering my second and third degree burns 2 years ago. Man, I think I remember Ryan talking about that. But his leg is feeling almost full again. That's awesome there, Ryan. Rudy says, good news, traveling to Mexico for Quinceañera on next Friday. Who's Quinceañera? That's somebody's, right? It's just, I don't know. But
I would think you would have to know the person.
Yes. Aaron says, good news is today's his mom's birthday, celebrating with her birthday tomorrow at a party. So happy birthday to Aaron's mom. My good news is also birthday related. It's my dog Sophie's birthday next Tuesday, the 15th, but we're celebrating with her. She loves dog cookies. Okay. This is not I'm not going to say the company.
What's a dog cookie?
There's a company out there that delivers, that you can just get online, dog cookies. They smell incredible.
Okay.
I have not tried it yet because both my dogs would be very angry at me if I ate one of their cookies. But they look amazing. And so she has become the Cookie Monster. So we're having a Cookie Monster themed dog birthday party tomorrow at our house. She is 9, which is weird because she's our youngest. So we've got a 10 and a 9-year-old pup. Right, Ty says, taste it, Austin. I'm not stealing one of my dog's cookies. I've asked my wife several times, can I please have one? Because they look really good. There's sprinkles on it and everything.
That sounds like a magic bucket thing.
No, there's not a punishment to this. It's basically human food without sugar.
Okay.
Because dogs just can't have sugar. So it's a sugar-free cookie is what it is. So there's no punishment.
There's no downside.
No, not at all. It's just a less sweet cookie. No, the smell of them are really, really good. So that's my good news.
I mean, Febreze smells good, but I wouldn't want to drink it.
But but food, when food smells good, you want to eat it. It's still food. It's dog cookies, but it's still food, and they're really good. I'm not going to give a free shout out to the company because I spend plenty of money with them. Maybe we'll have to do an ad read down the line. All right, guys. Hope you all have a great weekend. Come hang out at Mandu. You get a free workout. I suggest you try it because it really does work, and it's pretty impressive. They got multiple locations all across Middle Tennessee, also a couple in Memphis, and they're growing like crazy across the country. We'll see you guys on Monday. Big week next week. Titans have mandatory minicamp, so Derrick Henry back in town, A.J. Brown back on the practice field, and Julio Jones with everybody else. So we'll see you guys. Have a great weekend.